NTA International News.
The acting president, who was welcomed with pomp and pageantry, also had dialogue with members of the
First Lady Mechanic Sandra Egebo.
Technological innovation gets a boost as federal government empowers inventors. As ministries, departments and agencies in Nigeria continue to defend their 2017 budget, ECOWAS Parliament advocates 10% budgetary allocation of member nations to boost agriculture. Federal government dedicates telephone line and email for whistleblowers. Welcome to the news on NTA International. Ominyodan is my name. The presidency has directed contractors handling projects which are now abandoned to return to site with immediate effect. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo gave the directive after inspecting projects which include a 330 megawatts power generating plant and a skills acquisition center in Ohaji, Bema local government area of Imo State. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
Acting President Osinbajo states is ready to investigate and prosecute any contractor found to have failed in executing contractual agreement after being paid.
We need to move quickly on the Egbema power plant. It's a project that's been on for the past 10 years, and it's very obvious that the contractor is unable to complete it. So we need to take radical action. It's over 300 megawatts of power. No reason at all why we should be stuck with 300 megawatts of power when we have a shortage of power. And the gas facility is completed and is there. This is a plant that has gas right next to it. So it's a resource that we need to free up very quickly. And I'm glad that I've been able to see it personally. And I'll be working with the Niger Delta Power Holding Company and as well as the government of Imo State to ensure that we're able to deliver this in the shortest possible time.
The acting president, who was welcomed with pomp and pageantry, also had dialogue with members of the community with a promise to give urgent attention to their requests.
Revolution is only possible when we perform. The visit itself is merely for us to be able to take a look at it and see for ourselves and see what it is that needs to be done. It's also an important opportunity to interact with the people, find out what their real needs are, what their issues are. And just listening to them, the needs are not that many, problems are not that grave, but we need to address them quickly, we need to address them honestly, and once the people know that we are making our best efforts, I'm sure that they will be satisfied.
The visit of the Vice President is a huge sigh of relief for the people of this area who felt abandoned, neglected over many years. This trip alone is reassuring. They now can believe that government knows about them, about their problem. So I commend this initiative of going around the Niger Delta area by Mr. Vice President himself and trying to see the project himself and seeing the people and touching them and understanding how they feel.
99.9% of projects in Imo State belonging to either the federal government directly or the NDDC are abandoned. We feel like this is an opportunity for the acting president to come and see things for himself.
Andrew has spoken as other concerned young men who are here concerning good government in the line, and they are so elated that the present government is ready to offer that good governance and make sure that all abandoned projects are completed sooner than later. From Ohaji Egbema, Ogota, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
The federal government has reiterated commitment in reviving the mining and steel sector of the economy for attainment of desired goal in its economic diversification drive. This came at the budget defense held by the Senate Committee on Power, Steel Development and Metallurgy. National Assembly correspondent Ifan Yezuba reports.
The 2017 total budget proposal for Mines and Steel Ministry is put at 23 billion naira. In the financial year, the sector will work to make mining more competitive in the global mining space and focus on priority areas to drive growth, with Ajaokuta steel industry on its priority list.
We have just managed to sign an agreement with the company that took us to arbitration in the UK, and we are in the process of finalizing the due diligence and audit of the National Iron Ore Mining Company, and then retrieving Ajaokuta to put it back to those who have expressed interest.
The ministry was also at the House Committee on Steel to brief the legislatures on how they intend to commence the process of working with national and state legislatures and government to address road gaps and resolve conflicts in mineral resources legislation.
The Honourable Minister has actually made his own presentation regarding his 2016-2017 budget. And as far as we are concerned, the committee in the House of Reps is very satisfied with the presentation of the Honourable Minister.
The ministry, however, appealed for patience and perseverance as they take the right measures and sustainable reform that will set the nation's mining industry on the path of sustainable growth. From the National Assembly, Ifani Isumba, NT News.
For proactive response, friendly and efficient police force, there must be a facilitation and provision of adequate resources. This was the consensus when the Minister of Interior, Abdul Rahman Dambazal, and the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, appeared before the House Committee on Police Affairs to defend the 2017 budget estimates. National Assembly correspondent Dennis Adegloye reports.
The Minister of Interior, Abdul Rahman Dambazal, emphasized the need for special intervention for the police so that ongoing projects can be completed and effective policing of the country for optimum security can be achieved.
We don't have any intention to allow any project to be abandoned. We want the police to be able to handle this project themselves.
Defending a 323 billion naira 2017 budget estimate, the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, said the overhead allocation is to fund daily administration of the force, including maintenance of vehicles, aircrafts and marine patrol boats, as well as local and international training. He also stressed the importance of the construction of training schools for counter-terrorism and other critical logistics for effective operations.
Long-awaited police reform bill pending before the Nigerian Assembly since 2009 is aimed at bridging the funding gap. I therefore urge the 8th National Assembly to, as a matter of urgency, consider and pass into law the police reform bill.
The chairman of the House Committee on Police Affairs, having listened to the submissions, was in no doubt that extra funding would be required to enhance effectiveness and efficiency of the Nigerian police force.
It's left for us now to see how we can now adjust or the estimate or increase the estimate based on what we feel is right.
Also present at the interaction was the Chairman, Police Service Commission, Mike Okiro. The Nigerian police force currently has 7,000 police formations and units across the country. From the National Assembly, Dennis Adegunloye, NTA News.
ECOWAS Parliament has ended its first extraordinary session for 2017 with a resolve to mandate African governments to allocate 10% of annual budget to the agricultural sector. Joseph O'Rourke reports that this was part of the resolutions after considering 5 joint committee reports.
The committee, which sat in Dakar, Senegal in November last year, focuses on implementation of ECOWAS agricultural policy within the context of the regional agricultural investment programs of member countries. The parliament appreciated the agricultural program in Senegal and urged ECOWAS Commission to share the experience with member states.
Until we can begin to put more money in the agricultural sector as a community, we will depend on foreign aid, we will depend on food from other countries, which is not in the best interest of our communities.
Although there was heated debates among members over which country should be given topmost recognition on their vetted political impasse in Gambia, the parliament agreed to send formal appreciation to the presidents of Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and that of Senegal.
With the age of the Nigerian president, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, and his health, took most of his time coming to the Gambia and back, just to make sure that peace prevail.
Nigeria has contributed troops. Look at the distance between Nigeria and Gambia. For somebody, look at the proximity between Senegal and Gambia. What further recommendation would Nigeria request from African brothers?
I recognize the various heads of state and to express our gratitude to them.
Meanwhile, the ECOWAS Parliament's Committee on Health and Social Welfare is slated to hold its joint committee work in Monrovia, Liberia, in April ahead of the resumption of plenary in May. With understanding, mutual trust, and regular consultations, parliamentarians believe ECOWAS will achieve set mission and protocol, which will eventually translate to desired economic integration of the region. In Abuja, Joseph Orok, NTA News.
The agricultural and agro-allied processing sector in Nigeria, especially at this time, has been identified as a sector with vast potential with job creation prospects. But to fully enable this sector to provide increasing employment for inclusive growth in Nigeria, analysts believe that evidence-based policy making has a contribution to make. Justin Bem-Unyi reports that a research policy community forum was held in Abuja to close the observed gap between research and policy formulation.
Despite the fact that Nigeria has great potentials in agriculture and agro-allied industries, records, however, show that converting the potentials to realizable objectives in the sector is at the lowest ebb. For instance, with 68 million hectares of arable land in the country, only 33 million is said to be cultivated. A mere 7% of the estimated 3.14 million hectares irrigable land area is cultivated. With these abundant resources, however, annual food imports bill is put at $22 billion. Addressing the limitations of employment creation potentials of the sector in the context of inclusive growth necessitated the establishment and sustenance of a vibrant research policy community called Utafiti Sera in Nigeria, a mechanism that provides opportunities for new ways of thinking and collaborating.
I think first is to create the synergy between research and the policymakers, so that we both put heads together.
The only way we can reduce employment in this country today is through agriculture. And the Institute of Legislative Studies are organizing this forum to educate the public on the best way to move agriculture forward.
The forum will propose, among other things, step-by-step policy actions on consolidation of institutions and resources in the agri sector for job creation, as well as policy and institutional framework for enhancing youth employment in agribusiness. In Abuja, Justin Bem-Unyi, NTA News.
The Federal Minister of Finance has dedicated a telephone line for receiving short message service SMS, otherwise called text messages, a whistleblower's portal, and an email address, which are displayed on the screen, through which members of the public who volunteer to disclose information about possible misconduct or violation can deliver such information. The information given will then be processed by a team dedicated for the purpose. The telephone lines, SMS, and portal are in response to inquiries by patriotic Nigerians on how and where they could deliver information that could lead to the stopping or uncovering of fraud following the approval of the whistleblowers policy of the Federal Executive Council and its launch by the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun. To structurally engage in continuous generational exploitation of series of technological innovations that could lead to creation and development of new products and processes, there is the need to provide the nation's inventors and innovators with financial backing for encouragement. This the Presidential Standing Committee on Innovation did when it presented 56 Nigerians with checks of various amounts for further development of their technological products. Correspondent Kirenomayo reports.
Impressed by the complex and diverse technological innovations and inventions available in Nigeria, Minister of Science and Technology Dr. Bone Oni noted that when adequately harnessed, they will address challenges of unemployment and promote accelerated development in all ramifications. He said that the current administration is desirous of ensuring that creativity, inventions, and innovations become critical factors in national development, adding that many of the inventions will be patented to protect the creative entrepreneurs' intellectual property.
Government is taking this action because your success will lead to the development of small and medium-scale enterprises that will in turn enhance job and wealth creation in Nigeria.
3 innovators received the highest amount of money. Dr. Ezekiel Izogo, who got 10 million naira, is the highest recipient. He developed self-sustaining a magnetodynamic machine that does not require fuel or any external source of energy. Yemi Oshifadure, 4 million naira, he invented electrode utilizing 80% local raw materials, while the nation's first lady mechanic, Sandra Agebo, 5 million, was encouraged for innovation in automobile mechanics.
Science said it is impossible to build a perpetual motion machine. That's what we have built, and we're the first in the world.
From a magnetodynamics, rechargeable public address system, cement concentrate from cassava, to software development, production of biogas from animal dung, and of course aircraft manufacturing. It is amazing what Nigerians can really do. They have been given grants to help them grow in their chosen technologies, but a lot more needs to be done with respect to commercialization and mass production. In Abuja, Kirian Umayo, NTA News.
You are watching NTA International News from Abuja, Nigeria. Time to take a break. To return shortly with more reports. The acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onogan, has called on state governments to domesticate the Administration of Criminal Justice Act as a way of enhancing the dispensation of justice in the country. He made the call in his message to the opening of a national colloquium on the Administration of Criminal Justice Act holding in Abuja. Femi Okawo reports.
While the Administration of Criminal Justice Act is still struggling to find a good footing in the Federal High Court and the FCT High Court, where it's already in use, only 7 states have so far domesticated the Act, making the good provisions of that Act yet underutilized in Nigeria.
The purpose of this Act is to ensure that the system of administration of criminal justice in Nigeria promotes efficient management of criminal justice institutions, speedy dispensation of justice, protection of the society from crime, and protection of the rights and interests of the suspects, the defendant, and the victim. From the above objectives, it is imperative that the Act be domesticated at the state level.
Chief Judge of the FCT High Court, Justice Ishak Bello, whose court is already implementing the Act, being a federal court, warned against the abuse of the Act by stakeholders in the justice sector.
It's not just having the uniformity. It has the added advantage of making prosecution less cumbersome.
Although many often do not realize it, we can neither have a robust economy nor a sound political system without an effective system of criminal justice administration.
The colloquium is for attorney generals and directors of public prosecution in the already implementing states and other selected states who are in the process of adopting the Act. In Abuja, Femi Okeowo, NTA News.
All civil servants who applied for houses in the Federal Integrated Staff Housing Program, FISH, will be given a level playing field as the Loans Board is set to begin payment to developers. Executive Secretary, Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board, Hannah Tufika, said this in an interview with Adebola Brooklyn Sunday.
Those who have already received letters from the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, their provisional offers of allocation have been forwarded to us so that we will now process and pay their loan entitlements to the property developers of their choice, so that as soon as possible their houses will be ready.
What should civil servants take into consideration while making their choice?
They should be guided by their income. An officer who is entitled to a one-bedroom house or whose resources can only make them repay a one-bedroom house should not go for a three-bedroom house.
Of what significance is this FISH program towards fulfilling the President's campaign promises?
The FISH program can address the housing needs of the civil servants. At the end of the day, that will be the input of the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation into the agenda, the change agenda of the present administration.
The FISH program is one of the welfare packages of the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
Central Bank of Nigeria dismisses claims that up to 20% of Nigeria, the naira in circulation is fake. Chazala Mekie has more on business news.
Many thanks for joining us. Now we begin with developments in the currency markets. The Central Bank of Nigeria has dismissed claims by a former deputy governor of the Central Bank, Obadiah Milafia, that up to 20% of naira in circulation is fake. The Central Bank's acting director, corporate communications, Isaac Okorafor, said only less than 1% of the naira in circulation is fake. Okorafor, who disclosed this in a statement, noted that records at the bank clearly indicates that the prevalence of counterfeit notes in Nigeria from January to December was less than 1%. He stated that while the Central Bank of Nigeria frowns strongly at attempts to counterfeit the naira, it remains committed to safeguarding the value of the naira. Meanwhile, latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics indicates that January inflation rose to 18.72% from 18.55% in December. A separate food index also showed inflation at 17.82% from 17.39% in December. And oil prices dipped on Wednesday over concerns that OPEC would not be able to maintain its high compliance so far with output cuts. And finally, a quick check on some commodities prices. That's the package at this time. I am Chiazala Meki. The news continues. Don't go away.
For reports outside Nigeria, let's join Basi Itaigban.
We begin this segment with Angola, where the World Health Organization says the worst yellow fever outbreak in decades in Democratic Republic of Congo is over. Report says this follows a massive vaccination campaign and that no new cases have been reported in either country in 6 months. And a court in Kenya has released 7 officials representing doctors of government hospitals who have been on strike since December over demands for pay hike. The officials were jailed on Monday for disobeying an order to call off the strike. Operations in all private hospitals in Kenya were cancelled on Tuesday after doctors refused to work until the 7 officials were released. A powerful cyclone is set to slam into the southern coast of Mozambique in the early hours of Thursday. It will be the first cyclone to hit the city for 10 years. Report says there is a risk of up to 400 millimeters of rain within 2 days, as the area has already received above average of rainfall over the last few months. With a single rocket, India has successfully put 104 satellites into the orbit, breaking the previous record set by Russia. Scientists gathered for the launch in the southern spaceport with overjoyed hearts as the India Space Research Organization announced all the satellites had been ejected. Indian Prime Minister immediately congratulated the scientists for the successful launch. Basi Taikbang, NTA News.
And on sports, Team Nigeria win